The broadcast reached Earth at 0347 hours, Terran Standard Time. Commander Sarah Chun was drinking her third cup of coffee in the communications center of Luna Base when the signal pierced through the usual background noise of space. At first, it seemed like another routine transmission from one of the outer colonies. Then, the screaming started. The holographic display flickered to life, showing the bridge of the UES Harmony, humanity's largest civilian transport ship. Captain Rodriguez appeared on screen, his uniform torn and blood streaming down his face. Behind him, emergency lights cast everything in a hellish red glow. This is Captain Rodriguez of the UES Harmony. We are under attack by unknown alien forces. They came out of nowhere, just appeared in our space like ghosts. His voice cracked as explosions shook the ship. We have 70,000 civilians aboard. Families, children, elderly. They're targeting our life support systems. Commander Chen leaned forward, her coffee forgotten. The Harmony was supposed to be in safe space, 3 days out from the Kepler 442 colony. That sector had been clear for months. They're not trying to board us, Rodriguez continued, his eyes wide with horror. They're not taking prisoners. They're just killing us. Slowly. They want us to suffer. The transmission cut to static for several seconds before returning. When it did, Rodriguez was gone. In his place stood something that made Chen's blood run cold. The alien was tall and thin, with gray skin that seemed to shimmer in the red light. Its eyes were black holes in its face, and, when it smiled, Chen could see rows of needle-sharp teeth. But it was the intelligence in those dark eyes that truly terrified her. This wasn't some mindless beast. This creature knew exactly what it was doing. Humans, the alien spoke in perfect English, its voice like broken glass. Your species has expanded too far, too fast. You pollute the galaxy with your presence. We are the veil, and we cleanse what should not be. The alien gestured, and the camera turned to show the ship's main passenger deck. Chen had to grip her chair to keep from falling. Bodies lay everywhere. Men, women, children. But they weren't dead. They were moving, twitching, their eyes wide with terror. Some kind of neural parasite, Chen realized. The aliens were keeping them alive while they died slowly from the inside. We broadcast this to your homeworld so you understand. The veil creature continued. This is mercy compared to what awaits your species. We have studied you for decades. We know your weaknesses, your fears, your precious bonds with each other. We will use them all against you. The transmission showed more horrors. Families forced to watch each other die. Children crying for parents who could no longer respond. The veil moved among them like doctors, carefully adjusting whatever devices were causing the agony, making sure no one died too quickly. In 72 hours, we will arrive at your colonies. In 1 week, we will reach your homeworld. Prepare your goodbyes. The transmission cut to black. The communications center fell silent except for the hum of machinery. Chen stared at the empty screen, her mind struggling to process what she had just witnessed. Ma'am, Sergeant Martinez spoke quietly from his station. What are your orders? Chen stood slowly, her legs feeling weak. She had been a Marine for 20 years, had seen combat on 6 different worlds, but nothing had prepared her for this. 70,000 people, tortured and murdered while the galaxy watched. Get me General Harrison on Earth, she said, her voice steadier than she felt. Priority Alpha. Tell him we have a code black situation. Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, what about the Harmony? Should we send rescue ships? Chen looked at the coordinates displayed on her screen. The Harmony was 12 light-years away. Even their fastest ships would take days to reach it. By then, there would be nothing left to rescue. Send them anyway, she said. Maybe we can learn something from what's left. 3 hours later, Chen found herself in the main briefing room of Earth's Military Command Center in Geneva. The room was packed with the highest-ranking officers from every branch of human military service. Admiral Thompson, head of the Space Navy, sat across from General Harrison of the Marine Corps. Director Walsh from Intelligence was there too, along with representatives from every major colony. The Harmony transmission played again on the main screen. Chen watched the faces around the table grow pale as they witnessed the atrocities. Some of the older officers, veterans of the Titan Rebellion and the Mars Wars, looked sick. This was different from anything humanity had ever faced. How many ships do we have that can fight? General Harrison asked when the transmission ended. Admiral Thompson consulted his tablet. The Navy has 47 combat-ready vessels, destroyers, cruisers, 2 battleships. But, sir, we don't know anything about their technology. Our weapons might not even scratch them. What about the Marines? Harrison turned to Colonel Peters, his aide. How many combat-ready units? 80,000 Marines across all commands, sir. But most are stationed on colonies for security. If we pull them back to defend Earth, the colonies will be defenseless, Harrison finished. And, according to that thing, they're hitting the colonies first. Director Walsh leaned forward. Our intelligence on this Veil species is 0. We've never heard of them, never detected their ships, never had any contact. It's like they appeared out of thin air. They said they've been studying us for decades. Chin spoke up. Maybe they have some kind of cloaking technology we can't detect. Or maybe they're from another dimension, Admiral Thompson suggested grimly. The way their ships just appeared in normal space. No warp signatures, no engine traces. It's not possible with any technology we understand. General Harrison stood and walked to the main display, which now showed a map of human space. 57 colonies spread across 38 star systems, connected by shipping routes and communication relays. Humanity's greatest achievement, and now it was all under threat. We can't defend everything, he said quietly. If we spread our forces too thin, we'll lose everything. But if we concentrate them, we sacrifice the outer colonies to save the inner ones, Admiral Thompson said. 40 million people on the frontier worlds. The room fell silent. Chin thought about the families on those distant worlds, children playing in alien sunsets, farmers working soil no human had ever touched before last decade. All of them counting on Earth to protect them. There's another option, she said suddenly. Everyone turned to look at her. We don't try to defend everywhere. We hunt them down. What do you mean? General Harrison asked. Chin stood and pointed to the display. They're coming to us, right? They told us their plan. Instead of waiting for them to arrive, we track them down and hit them first. Take the fight to them before they can spread out and attack multiple targets. Admiral Thompson shook his head. We don't know where they are or how many ships they have. It would be suicide. So is sitting here waiting for them to pick us apart piece by piece, Chin replied. At least this way, we go down fighting. Director Walsh was studying something on her tablet. Actually, we might be able to track them. The Harmony sensors got some readings before they were destroyed. Exotic energy signatures, gravitational anomalies. If we can analyze the data, how long would that take? Harrison asked. 48 hours, maybe less if we put every computer we have on it. Harrison looked around the room at the faces of Earth's military leadership. These men and women had spent their careers preparing for wars against human enemies, rebels and pirates and separatists. None of them had ever imagined facing something like the Veil. All right, he said finally. We tried Chin's plan, but we're not sending our people into battle blind. I want every ship equipped with the best weapons we have. Every Marine gets the finest armor and training we can provide. And I want contingency plans for evacuating Earth's population if this goes wrong. Over the next 2 days, Earth's military machine worked like never before. Weapons factories ran triple shifts, producing new armor and ammunition. Ships were pulled from routine patrols and fitted with experimental weapons. Scientists worked around the clock to understand the Veil's technology from the limited sensor data. Chin found herself promoted to colonel and placed in command of the 1st Marine Strike Force, a unit that didn't exist 3 days earlier. Her job was to lead the ground assault if they found the Veil ships. The best Marines from every unit were transferred to her command, along with the newest equipment and weapons. On the second night, she stood in the armory looking at her new soldiers. They came from every corner of human space. Sergeant Kim from the Titan garrison, who had fought in the underground tunnels against separatist rebels. Private Johnson from Alpha Centauri, barely 19, but already a veteran of 3 combat missions. Corporal Zhang from Mars, an expert in zero-gravity combat. I won't lie to you, Chin addressed her assembled Marines. We're going up against something we don't understand. These aliens have technology that makes our best equipment look like stone knives. They've already killed 70,000 innocent people, and they're planning to kill billions more. She paused, looking at each face in turn. These men and Women had volunteered for this mission knowing they might not come back. Some of them had families on the colonies the Veil planned to attack. But we're Marines, she continued. We're the ones people call when the impossible needs doing. We've fought on airless moons and in the crushing gravity of heavy worlds. We've held the line when everyone else ran. Today, we hold the line for our entire species. The Marines stood straighter, their resolve hardening. Chun felt a surge of pride. Whatever happened next, humanity wouldn't go quietly into the dark. Director Walsh's voice came over the intercom. Colonel Chun, please report to the bridge. We've found them. Chun made her way to the command center of the UES Retribution, Earth's newest and most powerful battleship. The ship had been launched just 6 months ago, equipped with experimental weapons and the strongest shields human technology could produce. Now it would face its first real test. Report, Chun said as she entered the bridge. Captain Morrison, the ship's commander, pointed to the main display. Long-range sensors picked up the Veil fleet 40 minutes ago. They're moving through the Proxima system, heading for the mining colonies. The display showed 12 alien ships, unlike anything in human databases. They were organic-looking, all curves and flowing lines, like someone had grown them rather than built them. Each one was easily twice the size of the Retribution. Estimated time to Proxima colonies? Chun asked. 18 hours at their current speed, Morrison replied. But, Colonel, there's something else. Our computer analysis of their energy signatures is complete. These ships, they're not using conventional engines. They're literally bending space-time around themselves. Chun stared at the display. Humanity was about to go to war with beings who could manipulate the fundamental forces of the universe. The smart thing would be to evacuate Earth and run for the edge of the galaxy, hoping the Veil would lose interest. But the Harmony's transmission replayed in her mind. 70,000 people tortured and murdered for the crime of existing. Children who would never see another sunrise. Parents who died watching their families suffer. How long until we intercept? She asked. 6 hours if we push the engines to maximum, Captain Morrison said. But, Colonel, we'll be outnumbered 12-1. And that's just the ships we can see. Chun nodded. The odds were impossible, the enemy unknown, the chance of survival minimal. It was exactly the kind of mission Marines were made for. Set course for Proxima, she ordered. And send a message to all human colonies. Tell them the Marines are coming. The UES Retribution dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Proxima system with the thunder of reality tearing apart. Colonel Chun stood on the bridge, watching the main display as sensors swept the area for enemy contacts. Around her, the crew worked with quiet efficiency, each person knowing they might be living their final hours. Contact, called Lieutenant Hayes from the sensor station. 12 Veil ships, just as projected. They're in formation around Proxima B, the mining colony. Captain Morrison studied the tactical display. The alien vessels had arranged themselves in a perfect sphere around the planet, cutting off any escape routes. It was a hunting formation, designed to trap prey rather than destroy it quickly. The Veil wanted the colonists alive for their sick games. How many people on Proxima B? Chun asked. 43,000, Morrison replied grimly. Mostly miners and their families. The colony has minimal defenses, just a few patrol ships. Chun watched the display as one of the human patrol craft tried to break through the Veil formation. The tiny ship lasted exactly 12 seconds before alien weapons tore it apart. The explosion was brilliant white against the darkness of space, then gone. They're not even trying to capture our ships, observed Commander Park, the Retribution's weapons officer. Just instant destruction. They want the people on the ground. Chun activated the ship's communication system. This is Colonel Chun to all Veil vessels. You're in violation of Terran space. Withdraw immediately or face the consequences. The response came within seconds. The same creature from the Harmony broadcast appeared on the main screen, its black eyes reflecting the bridge lights like oil. Colonel Chun. Yes, we know who you are. We've been watching your species prepare for war. Fascinating. You bring one ship against 12, knowing you cannot win. Is this bravery or stupidity? Call it human nature, Chun replied. We don't abandon our own. The Veil creature tilted its head, studying her with those horrible eyes. Your own? These miners chose to leave Earth. They came to dig metals from alien soil. They are not truly yours anymore. Every human is ours, Chen said firmly. Every child, every family, every person trying to build a better life among the stars. That's what you don't understand about us. Oh, but we do understand. The alien smiled with its needle teeth. We understand perfectly. Your attachment to others is your greatest weakness. Watch. The transmission changed to show the surface of Proxima B. Chen's blood ran cold. The Veil had already landed troops. Humans were being herded into large groups in the colony's main square. Families clutched each other as the gray-skinned aliens moved among them, selecting individuals and dragging them away. We will torture them for days. The Veil creature continued. We will make sure every scream is broadcast to your ship. We will break their minds slowly while their loved ones watch. And you will be helpless to stop it, because your one ship cannot defeat our 12. Chen's hands clenched into fists. You talk too much. She cut the transmission and turned to Captain Morrison. Take us in. Full attack formation. Colonel, with respect, we need a plan. We can't just charge in blindly. Chen was already moving toward the exit. We can't win a straight fight, so we don't fight fair. Marines don't surrender, and we don't leave people behind. I'm taking my team down to the surface. How? Their ships will blast our shuttles out of space before we get close to the planet. Chen paused at the doorway and smiled. It wasn't a pleasant expression. Who said anything about shuttles? 30 minutes later, Chen stood in the Retribution's main cargo bay with her 50 best Marines. Each soldier wore the newest powered armor, black plates that enhanced strength and speed while providing protection against energy weapons. Their helmets were sealed, life support systems ready for the vacuum of space. Sergeant Kim approached her, carrying a massive rifle that looked like it belonged on a starship rather than in human hands. Colonel, the new plasma cannons are loaded and tested, but we only have enough ammunition for maybe 10 minutes of sustained fire. Then, we make every shot count. Chun replied, checking her own weapon. Remember the plan. We drop fast, hit hard, and create enough chaos to give the colonists a chance to escape. Secondary objective is to capture Veil technology for analysis. Private Johnson, the youngest member of the team, raised his hand nervously. Ma'am, what if we can't get back to the ship? Chun looked at each of her Marines in turn. These men and women had volunteered for what was essentially a suicide mission. They knew the odds, but they had come anyway because that's what Marines did. Then, we make sure the Veil remembers this day, she said simply. Captain Morrison's voice came over the intercom. Colonel, we're approaching the enemy formation. They're hailing us again. Ignore them, Chun ordered. Begin the attack run. Through the cargo bay windows, Chun could see the alien ships growing larger. They were beautiful in a terrible way, their organic curves catching the light of Proxima's red sun. As the Retribution closed distance, the Veil vessels began to move, flowing through space like living things. Energy buildup detected on all enemy ships, Morrison announced. They're charging weapons. Now or never, Chin said to her Marines. Sound off for equipment check. Kim ready. Johnson ready. Zhang ready. 50 voices called out in the cargo bay as the Marines prepared for the most dangerous insertion in military history. Instead of using shuttles or drop pods that the Veil could easily destroy, they were going to use the Retribution's experimental teleportation system. The technology was untested in combat, and there was a 30% chance of materialization errors that would scatter their atoms across space. Teleporter charging, announced the ship's AI. Warning, enemy weapons fire detected. Recommend immediate deployment. The Retribution shuddered as Veil energy beams struck the hull. The ship's shields flared brilliant blue, deflecting most of the damage, but Chun could feel the deck plates vibrating under her feet. Morrison was pushing the engines hard, trying to get close enough for the teleportation system to lock onto the planet's surface. We're taking heavy fire, Morrison called over the intercom. Shields down to 60%. I can give you maybe 2 minutes in range. That's all we need, Chun replied. Marines, form up on the teleporter pad. The 50 soldiers moved into formation on the glowing circle in the center of the cargo bay. Each one carried enough firepower to level a city block, and their armor would let them survive in almost any environment. But Chen knew that against the Veil's advanced technology, They would be like ancient warriors with bronze swords facing modern artillery. Coordinates locked, the AI announced. Target, main colony square, Proxima B surface. Population density, high. Recommend precision deployment to avoid civilian casualties. Do it, Chen ordered. The world dissolved into light and energy. Chun felt her body break apart at the molecular level, every atom streaming through space at impossible speeds. For a terrifying moment, she existed as pure information, her consciousness floating in a digital void. Then, reality reassembled around her in a blaze of pain and disorientation. She materialized in the middle of chaos. The colony square was filled with terrified humans and their alien captors. Gray-skinned Veil soldiers turned in surprise as 50 armored Marines appeared in flashes of blue light. Chen didn't waste time talking. Marines, engage. The battle erupted with devastating fury. Chen's plasma rifle spoke first, sending a bolt of superheated energy through a Veil soldier's chest. The alien died instantly, its gray skin vaporizing in a cloud of steam. Around her, the other Marines opened fire with their advanced weapons. The Veil recovered quickly from their surprise. They moved with inhuman speed, flowing around the battlefield like liquid mercury. Their weapons fired beams of crackling energy that could cut through solid steel, but the Marines' new armor held against the initial barrage. Zhang, take your squad and secure the evacuation routes, Chen shouted over the sound of weapons fire. Kim, establish a perimeter around the civilians. Corporal Zhang led 10 Marines toward the colony's main spaceport, where civilian shuttles were parked. If they could get the transports running, they might be able to evacuate some of the colonists before Veil reinforcements arrived. Chen ducked behind a concrete barrier as energy beams sliced the air above her head. A Veil soldier appeared around the corner, moving impossibly fast. She put 3 plasma bolts into its center mass before it could fire. The alien fell backward, its weapon skittering across the ground. Colonel, Sergeant Kim's voice crackled through the radio. The civvies are panicking. They're running in all directions. Chen looked around the battlefield. The Veil had been herding the colonists into organized groups, but the sudden appearance of the Marines had shattered their control. Humans were scattering everywhere, making it nearly impossible to protect them all. Let them run, Chen decided. Better scattered than captured. Focus on killing the aliens. A new sound filled the air, the deep roar of spacecraft engines. Chen looked up to see more Veil ships descending from orbit, bringing reinforcements. Each vessel was smaller than the ones in space, but they moved with predatory grace, already deploying troops before they touched the ground. Johnson, Zhang, report, Chen called into her radio. Spaceport secured, Zhang replied. We've got 3 shuttles ready for evacuation, but the Veil are jamming all communications. The pilots can't get clearance to launch. Tell them to launch anyway. Chen ordered. Manual navigation, stay low, and run for open space. Maybe they can reach one of our ships. Private Johnson's voice was strained with combat stress. Colonel, we've got a problem. These aliens, they're learning from our tactics. The ones we're fighting now are adapting to our weapons. Chen saw what he meant. The Veil soldiers who had survived the initial assault were moving differently now, using cover and coordinated attacks. They had watched their companions die and instantly modified their behavior. It was like fighting an enemy that became smarter with every passing minute. Fall back to defensive positions, Chen ordered. Conserve ammunition and make every shot count. The Marines withdrew to a cluster of industrial buildings at the edge of the square, using the structures for cover. From this position, they could see the entire colony spread out below them. Smoke rose from a dozen fires where Veil weapons had struck buildings. In the distance, Chen could see human civilians fleeing toward the mountains, pursued by groups of alien soldiers. Ma'am, Kim called out, pointing toward the main Veil landing site. Look at that. Chen followed his gaze and felt her stomach turn cold. The aliens were setting up some kind of large device, a crystalline structure that pulsed with internal light. As she watched, captured humans were being forced to walk toward it, and those who got too close simply collapsed, their bodies convulsing. It's the same thing they used on the Harmony, Chen realized. Some kind of neural weapon. They're not trying to kill the colonists quickly. They want to break their minds first. Not if we stop them first, Kim replied grimly. Chen looked at her tactical display. The Retribution was still in orbit, fighting a desperate battle against the 12 Vale capital ships. According to the readings, Morrison's crew was holding their own, but barely. The ship's shields were down to 20%, and they had already lost 2 weapon systems. Zhang, what's the status on those evacuations? First shuttle launched successfully. 2 more are loading now. But, Colonel, we're running out of time. The Vale are bringing up heavy weapons. Chen could see what Zhang meant. The aliens were deploying massive energy cannons, weapons that dwarfed anything the Marines carried. When those came online, the human defensive position would be untenable. All squads, prepare for final assault, Chen ordered. We're going to take out that neural weapon before they can use it on the remaining civilians. Ma'am, that's suicide, Kim protested. We'd have to cross open ground under fire from superior forces. Maybe, Chen acknowledged. But that's 40,000 people down there. If we don't stop this weapon, they all die slowly while their families watch. I'd rather go down fighting. She stood up from cover, checking her weapon one last time. Around her, the Marines did the same. These men and women had come from every corner of human space to fight an enemy they barely understood. They were outnumbered, outgunned, and cut off from support. By all military logic, they should surrender. But they were Marines. And Marines never quit. Remember, Chen told her soldiers, we're not just fighting for these colonists. We're fighting for every human in the galaxy. The Vale think they can terrorize us into submission by murdering innocents. Today, we show them they're wrong. Chen activated her armor's jump jets and leaped over the barrier, plasma rifle firing as she charged toward the alien weapon emplacement. Behind her, 50 Marines followed, their war cries echoing across the battlefield. The final battle for Proxima B had begun. The charge across the open ground was hell itself. Vale energy weapons lit up the air around Colonel Chun as she sprinted toward their neural weapon installation. To her left, Private Johnson stumbled and fell as an alien beam caught him in the shoulder, but he rolled behind cover and kept firing. To her right, Sergeant Kim vaulted over a concrete barrier with impossible grace, his powered armor amplifying his natural agility. Chen's plasma rifle spoke repeatedly as she ran, each shot carefully aimed at the Vale soldiers defending their position. The aliens moved with fluid precision, but they weren't expecting humans to charge directly into superior firepower. Their tactical algorithms had calculated that logical beings would retreat and try to find another solution. They had never fought Marines before. Zhang, report. Chen called into her radio as she dove behind a destroyed vehicle. Third shuttle launched successfully, Zhang replied, his voice strained with effort. But the Vale are jamming our communications with orbit. I don't know if any of the evacuation ships made it to safety. Chen peered around the wreckage of what had once been a mining transport. The Vale neural weapon was only 50 meters away now, its crystalline structure pulsing faster as alien technicians made final adjustments. She could see human captives lined up nearby, waiting to be fed into whatever horrible process the device performed. Kim, can you get your squad around to their left flank? Already moving, Colonel. Give us 30 seconds. Chun counted down in her head while energy beams sizzled over her position. The Vale were good soldiers, but they fought with mechanical precision. Humans, especially Marines, thrived on chaos and unpredictability. It was time to prove that technology couldn't replace the warrior spirit. All squads, converge on my position, Chen ordered. Maximum aggression. Make them think we're completely insane. The Marines responded with fierce war cries that would have made their ancestors proud. Chen stood up from cover and charged again, her plasma rifle firing on full automatic. Around her, 50 of Earth's finest soldiers followed, their advanced weapons cutting through veiled defensive positions like a hot knife through butter. The battle became a swirling melee as Marines closed with their alien enemies. Chen watched Corporal Zhang tackle a Vale soldier twice his size, his powered fists cracking the creature's gray skin. Private Miller, barely 20 years old, stood over a wounded colonist and held off 3 aliens with nothing but a combat knife and pure determination. But it was Sergeant Kim who reached the neural weapon first. The veteran Marine had flanked around the main battle and approached the device from its blind side. As Chen watched, Kim planted explosive charges around the crystalline base, while alien technicians scrambled to stop him. Fire in the hole, Kim shouted. The explosion sent shards of alien crystal flying in all directions. The neural weapon collapsed in on itself with a sound like breaking glass amplified 1,000 times. Instantly, the human captives who had been affected by its emanations stopped convulsing and began to move normally again. Target destroyed, Kim reported with satisfaction. Whatever that thing was, it's not working anymore. Chun felt a moment of fierce pride, but it was short-lived. Even as the neural weapon died, new Veil reinforcements were landing throughout the colony. Their initial assault had been successful, but they were still vastly outnumbered and cut off from support. Colonel, Johnson called out, pointing toward the sky. Look at that. Chun followed his gaze and saw something that made her heart sink. High above, the space battle was turning against the Retribution. Captain Morrison's ship was still fighting, but it was clearly outmatched. 3 of the 12 Veil capital ships had been destroyed, but the remaining 9 were converging on the human vessel like predators sensing a wounded animal. Zhang, status on remaining evacuees? Maybe 2,000 got out on the shuttles. But, ma'am, there are still 40,000 people scattered throughout the colony. The Veil are hunting them down in small groups. Chun looked around the battlefield. Her Marines had fought magnificently, but they were running low on ammunition and energy. Several soldiers were wounded, and their position was becoming untenable as more Veil forces arrived. Colonel, Kim approached her, his armor scarred from energy weapon hits. What are your orders? We can't hold this position much longer. Chun was about to respond when her radio crackled with an unexpected transmission. The voice that came through was weak and distorted, but unmistakably human. Any Terran forces in the Proxima system? This is Captain Rodriguez of the U.S. Harmony. Please respond. Chun's blood went cold. Rodriguez was supposed to be dead, killed during the Veil's broadcast 3 days ago. Rodriguez, this is Colonel Chun. What's your status? We thought you were lost. Not all of us, Colonel. We've been hiding in the ship's lower sections, about 300 survivors. The Veil thought they killed everyone, but some of us made it to the emergency shelters. We've been monitoring their communications, and, Colonel, we've learned something important. Go ahead. These ships aren't their main fleet. They're scouts, advanced units. But they're not reporting back to their homeworld through normal communication channels. They're using some kind of quantum entanglement network that connects directly to their command ship. Chun processed this information quickly. Which one is the command ship? The large one in the center of their formation. It's different from the others, more heavily armed. If we can take it out, the remaining ships will lose coordination with their main fleet. They won't be able to call for reinforcements. Chun looked up at the space battle raging overhead. The Retribution was badly damaged, its shields nearly gone, but Morrison's crew was still fighting. If they could coordinate an attack on the Veil command ship. Rodriguez, can you get any of Harmony's systems online? Some of them, yes. The Veil disabled our weapons and engines, but they left the navigation system intact. I think they wanted to use us as a navigation beacon for their main fleet. Can you turn that beacon into a weapon? There was a pause. Colonel, what are you thinking? Chun was already moving, gesturing for her Marines to follow. I'm thinking it's time to show these aliens what happens when they mess with humanity. Can you overload Harmony's fusion core? Yes, but... Colonel, that would turn the ship into a massive bomb. Anyone aboard would be killed instantly. How massive? Big enough to destroy anything within a 50-kilometer radius. Maybe more. Chun smiled grimly. The Harmony was currently inside the Veil formation, surrounded by enemy ships. If Rodriguez could turn his vessel into a weapon, do it, Chun ordered. Give us 20 minutes to clear the area, then blow everything to hell. Colonel, there are 300 people still alive on this ship. Chun stopped walking. 300 people who had survived the initial Veil attack, who had hidden and hoped for rescue. She was asking them to sacrifice themselves for a chance to hurt the enemy. Rodriguez, put it to a vote. Every survivor gets a choice. The radio was quiet for several long minutes. Chun imagined the desperate conversation taking place aboard the Harmony, as civilian passengers and crew debated whether to die fighting or keep hiding and hope for rescue. Finally, Rodriguez's voice returned. Colonel, The vote was unanimous. We all saw what these monsters did to our families and friends. If we can take some of them with us, we're ready to go. Chun felt tears stinging her eyes. These weren't soldiers. They were ordinary people who had been on a routine transport flight when hell came calling. But they were willing to give their lives to strike back at the beings who had murdered their loved ones. All Marines, immediate withdrawal to minimum safe distance, Chun ordered. We're about to give the Veil something to remember us by. The Marines began falling back toward the colony's outer edges, fighting a running battle against pursuing Veil forces. As they moved, Chun coordinated with Captain Morrison aboard the Retribution. Captain, you need to get clear of the Veil formation. The Harmony is about to become the galaxy's biggest grenade. Morrison's voice was strained with exhaustion and combat stress. Understood, Colonel. We'll try to clear the blast radius, but our engines are damaged. I'm not sure we can make it in time. Then, make sure you're pointing the right direction when it goes off. Use the explosion to mask an attack run on any surviving Veil ships. Roger that. Colonel, it's been an honor fighting alongside the Marines today. Chun found a defensive position on a hill overlooking the main colony. From here, she could see the entire battlefield spread out below. Veil forces were still hunting human civilians throughout the settlement, but many of the colonists had escaped into the surrounding wilderness. All squads, sound off, Chun called into her radio. Kim's squad, 37 effectives. Zhang's squad, 29 effectives. Johnson's squad, 22 effectives. Out of 50 Marines who had teleported down to the surface, 41 were still able to fight. They had lost 9 good soldiers, but they had saved thousands of civilians and destroyed the Veil's neural weapon. Not a bad day's work for the Corps. Colonel, Kim pointed toward the sky. Something's happening up there. Chun looked up and saw the Harmony moving within the Veil formation. The massive passenger ship was using its remaining maneuvering thrusters to position itself directly in the center of the enemy fleet. Veil vessels tried to move away, but their command ship was too close to escape in time. All units, take cover, Chun ordered. This is going to be big. Rodriguez's voice came over the radio one last time. Colonel, tell Earth what happened here. Tell them we didn't go quietly. I will, Chun promised. Give them hell, Captain. The explosion was visible from 3 light-years away. The Harmony's fusion core overloaded in a cascade reaction that turned the massive ship into a miniature star. For several seconds, the blast outshone Proxima's red sun, and the electromagnetic pulse knocked out every electronic device on the planet's surface. When Chin's vision cleared, the Veil fleet was gone. The command ship had been vaporized instantly, and the explosion had caught 4 other vessels in its radius. The remaining 7 Veil ships were drifting powerless, their exotic technology overloaded by the intense radiation. Retribution to Colonel Chun, Morrison's voice crackled through the static. The enemy fleet is neutralized. We're moving in to finish off the survivors. Chun stood up slowly, her legs weak from adrenaline and exhaustion. Around her, the Marines were also rising from cover, staring up at the space where their enemies had been moments before. Ma'am. Johnson approached her, his young face streaked with dirt and sweat. Did we win? Chun looked around the battlefield. The colony was in ruins, thousands of civilians were dead, and the Marines had paid a heavy price for their victory. But the Veil neural weapon was destroyed, most of the colonists had escaped, and an enemy fleet had been annihilated. We held the line, Private. That's what Marines do. Over the following days, as rescue ships arrived from Earth and the survivors were evacuated, the true scope of the victory became clear. The destruction of the Veil command ship had cut off their communication with the main alien fleet. Without coordination, the scattered Veil forces throughout human space became vulnerable to Earth's military response. More importantly, the Battle of Proxima B had provided humanity with captured Veil technology. Scientists were already reverse engineering their weapons and defenses, preparing for the larger war that was surely coming. Chun stood on the bridge of the Retribution as it prepared to depart Proxima B. The ship bore scars from its battle with the Veil fleet, but Morrison's crew had performed miracles keeping it operational. They would need time to repair and refit before the next engagement. Colonel, Morrison approached her with a message tablet. This just came in from Earth Command. Chun read the message and felt a mix of pride and sorrow. The Harmony's sacrifice and the Marines' ground assault had made headlines across human space. Citizens who had been preparing to flee were now volunteering for military service. The Veil had intended their broadcast to terrorize humanity into submission. Instead, they had awakened something they didn't understand: the human capacity for righteous fury when innocent people were threatened. "What are your orders, Colonel?" Morrison asked. Chen looked out at the stars, knowing that somewhere in the darkness, the Veil main fleet was preparing for war. They had superior technology and numbers, but they had made one critical error. They had given humanity time to prepare, and they had shown their true nature to the galaxy. "Set course for Earth, Captain. We have a war to win." As the Retribution jumped to faster-than-light travel, Chen thought about the 70,000 people who had died aboard the Harmony and the 9 Marines who had fallen on Proxima B. Their sacrifice had bought humanity something precious: hope, and the knowledge that even the most advanced enemy could be defeated by ordinary people willing to stand and fight. The Veil had wanted to demonstrate their superiority by broadcasting humanity's helplessness. Instead, they had broadcast the moment when Earth's children refused to kneel before monsters. The message would spread throughout the galaxy, reaching every human colony and outpost. The Marines were coming, and they would never stop fighting until every last alien invader was driven from human space, or until the last Marine drew breath defending the species that had dared to reach for the stars. In the depths of space, the real war was just beginning. But, for the first time since the horror began, humanity was ready to fight back.